Hello everyone, welcome to this Blender tutorial. What we're going to do today is run through a very quick setup of setting a Blender scene up so you can import cars, wheels, design it how you like. There's not much out there in terms of actually going through something specific for Rocket League. So what I would say before we start is go on YouTube, go on Google, and just learn how to use Blender itself. Not as, how would I set up Rocket League in Blender or something like that, but learn the actual program itself. How do I do XYZ in Blender? So we're going to run through pretty much setting up a floor, a background, setting up some lights, importing the car bodies, putting decals on, and then from there you can search for what you like. If you wanted to add some boost, if you're a bit more advanced, you could do that. If you want to do different wheels. So this is pretty much just an intro, a beginners of importing Rocket League assets. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually first, what I will do is screen key on. There we go. So what we're going to do is press A to select everything and delete. So we're going to start from a blank canvas and go File, Import, and then W. Actually, keys didn't work there, so I shouldn't use that. So File, Import, and Wavefront Object. What we're doing here is importing the cars for the minute. So it would be the body and the engine. If you want 3D objects, you can head over to the WikiLeaks Discord. Hello. You can head over to the WikiLeaks skin server, head on down to database, and there's the database link. There's a few assets in there that you can use for 3D models. So what we can do, cars. I've got quite a few, as you can see. So let's do the Fennec. What I will say is we have, I've already done like a Blender Rocket League tutorial before. So if you want to know how to use it for painting and creating decals, you can watch that. I'll leave a link down below in the description. But what I'm about to do here is pretty much what was covered in that tutorial. So in the wiki server, if you see any OBJ files or anything in the database, or I think it's 3D Mesh, the channel's called, anything by me that I've ripped, you want to follow this. So what you want to do is select your car, and what we're going to do is just scale it down to a reasonable size. You can see the scale over here, something like that. So I'm going to hover my mouse over the scale, Control C, head on down to the next one, Control V to paste, and the next one, Control V. So the car now has the same scale on all axes. What I'm going to do is click inside the X scale, come to the very end and put a minus. We need to invert it, so that's what this is now done. Once we've inverted it, we now need to flip it back the right way, so 180 on the rotation, and we want to pad this level, so we put 0 on that rotation. And that's the car now upright and right way, and the right way inside out. Next, we're going to head on to UV editing, bring our mouse onto this right side of the screen, Alt N, and then recalculate outside, geometry data, and then clear custom, over to texture, and for the moment we don't need to worry about this. So on the right side, click the plus and base color. This doesn't matter, so we'll click OK. And we'll leave it as that for now. So we'll do the same thing again. File, Import, wavefront. So we're doing the engine. So we've already got, we want the car body scale and the engine scale to match. So we've already got it copied, but we'll do it again. So copy the Z scale. Click on the engine, paste, paste, paste. Set this to minus, set this to 180, and set this to 0. Again, UV edit, right side, Alt N, recalculate outside, clear custom, and then what I'll do is I'll show you what this option does. So if I click on the body, excuse me, you see we have an image, BDS, BSDF, and the output. But if I click on the engine, we don't have the image. That's all this does. It gives you a quick way of adding an image so you don't have to add the image. If you wanted to add an image, Shift A, search, image texture, that's exactly the same thing. So now we've got that set up, let's add the diffuse. So we click on the body, click open. I have this in my decals. Again, this diffuse you can find in the database. Fennec, body texture, yeah, body texture. There we go. And then here we can muck around with the properties for it. So if I make it metallic, you see the color drop. It gets a little bit more reflective. Drop that down. Drop the roughness down. That makes it a lot more reflective. Then I'm going to click on the engine, and we can do the same. So I have the here, Fennec engine. I'm going to do the same. I want this very metallic, so it looks metally. Drop the roughness down so it's reflective. So on the layouts, this is what the default view looks like. If you come up here to the top right, you have a bunch of different views or options you can use. So viewport shading is basically a wireframe. And then this is what it would look like with the lighting inside of Blender. So you can see there's a bit of lighting like reflecting off of it. You can see a bit of world, pretty much this background here. And then this far one is what you would see is for your rendered view. So anything that you see here is pretty much how it would look like when you go to render your image. So we'll come back to that later. So now we'll come on to wheels. Same again, file, import, wavefront. I have wheels, where are my wheels? Cristianos. Get the rims. Again, the rims, it won't be an exact scale, but it will get it close enough. So we'll paste the scale of the body and the engine, and we'll put it onto the wheels. And get the tires. Boom, boom, boom. Perfect. Now what we want to do is we want to move. By the way, this menu, what I'm doing here, this is on my spacebar. I can't remember the default option to bring this menu up. This spacebar is my custom option. So what you'll see me do is you'll see me hit spacebar and then go to like S. This is for the scale. Or G to grab. Or R to rotate. So that's all I'm doing when I bring that menu up. I can't remember the default key for it. So I'm going to move this over to the left or right, however you want to look at it. I'm going to take this value. Let's not do that. Let's do 180 first. Rotate it that way. And like we did with the body, we want to do to the wheels, to the hub and the tires. So with one of the objects selected, go to UV edit, Alt N, outside, clear custom, and then what you'll see is this actually has two images, but we'll come on to that later. So we've got the rims. Let's do the tyres. So we've got the tyre selected, UV edit, outside, clear, and then this is the same it has here. So let's do these images first. Again, all of these are on the database, or they should be at least. So this is the tyre. So what I want to do is come down to car assets. I want the tread. And this second image, we're going to add a bump to it, or a normal map. Basically, that gives like a depth of fill. So if you look at it as it is, there's no real. If I unplug that, there you go. It doesn't look indented. So what we'll do is car assets, we'll tread bump, Shift A, and search for normal map. Connect these up, and then connect this to the normal. And you've got a bit of depth to it, so you can see the difference as I drag the bar. And what you'll also see is you have this sort of seam here. This is where the image repeats, so it goes round and then stops here. To get rid of that, just change this from tangent space to, I think it was Blender objects. It looks about right. The other one is the Blender world. Either or, so we'll keep that on Blender object for now. And we'll set the bump to 0.7. Don't need a huge indent to this. It's used to do something this non-color, but it doesn't seem to do anything these days. So now that's done. Again, you can customize this option for it. So roughness, give it a bit of a shine as well. Not too much, so add a bit of metallic to it. Ah, that's why it doesn't do anything. Because we set it to Blender object space. We set it back to tangent. You can see how it plays around and actually does something, but will it do anything? Doesn't seem to. Oh well, we'll keep it as that. So moving on to the actual Cristiano wheel itself. Car assets, wheels, and then the same for this. I have the pump map for that. Normal map. And what's happened here? I've selected the wrong one. There we go. So this one we can adjust. We want very metallic, bring the roughness up a bit. And this at about 0.5. So now that we have these done, let's move on to actually combining these to make it easier to add to the car and also do all four wheels. So we want to, first of all, we want to rotate this. So let's bring it up so we know which way we're going. So this can be set to 0. And we want the tread and the wheels in the same place. So this location value, we're going to copy that. Click onto the wheel and then paste in the same Y location. And there we have it. I also want to rotate this so this point is pointing upwards. As you can see here on the right panel, you can see which axis it's rotating on. So let's go with 0. No, let's go with 180. There we go. And now we're going to parent them together. What that will do is I want to click on the tyre and then move the tyre, but have this move with it. So first I'm going to click the wheel, hold down Shift, click the tyre. Then do Control P, and then to Object, Keep Transformation. That way now, when I click the tyre, everything moves. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come back to our setting the wheel in the actual wheel arches. So I want this up here, you have your axis view, and I want the side view, so I'm going to click this green ball. So that's dead on side view. What I'm going to do now is come into our wire view, and I want to align the center of this Cristiano, which is basically where the center of this dot is, and I want to align its center with the brakes. So here's the brake itself. If I come back here, here's the brake. I want to align its center with this, which is about here. So you can see the brake here, and you have the calipers here. So you have the calipers here, there's the brake, and then this little bit here is where you want to center it. So I want to put my dot roughly in the center. Some wheels, or sorry, some car bodies will actually have a mesh in here where it all joins, and you can actually see the center of it, which makes it a lot easier. Unfortunately, this car doesn't have it. So now that we're in this view, it's pretty much centered. We can now scale the wheels to match the wheel arches. If I bring it back, you'll see the wheels are a lot bigger. So again, we're going to come into our wireframe mode, go to our scale, and I'm just going to bring it down until the wheel clears the wheel arch. And I'm going to copy this value. This is the Z, which we just moved. I'm going to copy it and paste it on the other axis. I'm going to come back to our grab, and if I go to the under view mode, we're now going to set it in the car. Now for excuse me, for some cars you want the wheels so the hub would be inside. You can see here the Cristiano itself is underneath the car. Others it will be sticking out slightly, others it will have the wheel poking out. The way I line these up is it will either be the center of this tyre, which you can see here on this center line where the dot is. It will either be lined up with this outer line of the brake. If I come back here, you can see here's the axle. So the center line will either be lined up here on the edge or in the center of your brake pad. Now for the Fennec and for the Cristianos, what I do is I line it up to start with on the outside, and then you can just have a look, see what it looks like if you're okay with it. If you want to bring it in more, then we will line it up with the center of the brake pad, which is about there. There you go, it looks a bit better. So we've got one wheel done. Come back into our side view, we'll do the back wheel. So to copy and keep everything how it was, first want to select the Cristiano, hold down Shift and then select the wheel. This selects both objects. Control C, Control P. And now up here we have our new pasted one. So now if we just click that, we can move both objects at once because it's still keeping that parent that we set earlier. So now we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to move it. Before I continue, what you can see here is all we've done is dragged it exactly along this axis. So it's still the same scale, still the same size, and still in the same position horizontally as the front wheels. But you can see it's out of line and pretty much a lot smaller. A lot of cars will have this. The back wheels will be a lot bigger. So Now we're going to line this up roughly in the center again. That's about there. Come to the scale, and again we want the tire tread to be just coming over or just under this wheel arch. So we're going to copy that value, paste it. And here is a little tip to make sure you have everything set correctly. What we're going to do is we're going to add a plane, and we're going to scale it so it covers both wheels. And as you can see, oh shit, right, there we go. As you can see, one wheel has a little bit sticking through, the other is hardly any, if at all. So the way I set up my blender scene is I want a bit of wheel sticking through the floor. Because if you imagine a car on a floor, you won't have just the tiniest little bit. The weight of the car will push the wheel down. And to sort of simulate that, quote unquote, simulate, I have it sticking through a little bit. To get your wheels on the correct scale, what I would suggest is you bring your plane up just enough so it covers up to this line on the Cristianos for the tread. So we'll bring this up to about here. Now we can come to this back wheel and we know where to scale it to. Where's the plane gone? So we want to scale it quite a bit more so it comes up to about here. Oops, wrong one, this one. Maybe a little bit less, just a tiny bit, like that. About there. So I'm going to take this new scaled value, copy, paste, paste. And now we have it. So now we can do the same, but on the other side. And this will be a lot easier. So what I'm going to do, again, select the wheel, shift, select the tread, Control C, and then Control V. I'm now going to move this all the way over to the other side. A tip here, what I see a lot of people do, including RL Esports, by the way, is that they will, to get this wheel facing the other way, they will rotate the whole wheel. And you don't want to do that purely because this tread is now facing to the right. You can see the lines come down and they face off to the right. Whereas these come down and go to the left. So you want these in the same, look in the same way. So we'll put that back to 0. To get it facing the same way, click on the Cristiano itself, come to your Z rotation and just set that to 0. Now your tyre treads are all facing the same way, and you have your hub facing the same way as well, or the correct way I should say. So again, we're going to line this up. How do I line it up? In the middle. Uh-oh. There we go. We'll line this up, middle of the brake pad. Like that. And then we'll do the same to the front. So select the Cristiano, shift, select the tyre, Control C, sorry, Control V. Select the newly pasted one, bring it over, select the hub, put that to 0, the underview, and set this in the middle of the brake pad. So there's our car. So if I now hide that, see it in pretty much all its glory. So from there, what we're going to do is now add the floor. So we've got our plane already. We're going to come to our top view or top down view. So we click the Z. I'm going to scroll out a bit, and we now want to scale the floor. Now this is all dependent on how you want your scene to look. So for the moment, all I'm going to do is I've scaled it out quite a bit. I'm going to take that scaled value and I'm going to make it the same for the other one. You don't need to do the Z axis purely because it's a plane. You don't have depth to it. You can see it doesn't. The Z controls how sort of thick it is, and that doesn't really do anything for a plane. What we will do is adjust it for the tires, but looking at it, it could go down a little bit, I guess. About there, how much is sticking through? Okay. So there's our floor. Again, you select the floor and come over to the shading tab, click new. Now we can give it color, make it metallic, make it reflective. So, whoops, just what I'm going to do is make it a grey color, make it metal, drop the brightness, the specular of it, and then drop the roughness. If you want, this is basically done on Eevee. If you want a bit more accurate screen reflections, you can come over on your right hand panel to your render tab and click on screen space reflections. This isn't fully accurate. If you want it completely accurate, which we'll do later, you switch it to cycles. But we'll do that later. So from there, we can now add our camera. So we'll go to add camera. And this is where people sort of get a bit, help. So there's a number of ways you can move your camera. You can move it around, zoom in, and then when you find a good place, press Control, Alt, and numpad 0. That now sets your camera. Now you can see it over here. If I go to camera view, this is where it is. or if you want finer controls, you have your box over here. You can use your locations or rotations, however you like. For this, what I want to do is actually I want to come this side. For some reason, I prefer looking at this view. I don't know why. But what we also want to do is make this camera sort of a bit wider. So if I come down, once you click on the camera, this icon will appear. And what I want to do is set our focal length to about 40. And if I slide it, you can see what it does. So it basically makes it a bit wider, so you can a bit more into your camera, into your image. So from here, what we're going to do is hide that. And I just want to adjust slightly so I have a nice view. Something like that. There we go, something like that. So from here, again, our rendered view is still going to look a bit shit because we've got no lighting. So a few things before we get into that. We're going to set our world properties. This is the background color. So if I was to go back into here, you can see it's white, and then we can change it to pretty much black. I like sort of having it black, but as you can see here, you can't see shit now. Again, there's no lighting. So what we're going to do is you can do many different things. Add light. These 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 here are the default ones that come with Blender. There are lighting packs you can download, which give you all of these options. So the point light, if you were to look at it, this is pretty much what you would use for a headlight. You can see by the shape of it, basically a sphere. If I come into here, that's how the light looks. You can also change it if you have the light selected. You can change it in your properties down here. Sun is pretty much a sun, so it doesn't matter where you position it, it will light up everything. Spotlight is sort of a cone shape. You can see by the shape of it on the outline. And then area light is pretty much just a giant square. A little trick, what I've learnt is that an area light is pretty much okay. However, it's not the best. So if you add mesh torus, come up to the Z view, and you can sort of see the outline of it. You want to up the scale. So if you up it, you want this inside area around your car. So let's increase the scale a bit more. Again, this is going to be personal preference how big you want it. But let's start with something like that. As you realise, we've just done the X and Y scale. We haven't done the Z, which is thickness. So if I come down, it's pretty much a flat disc. What we want is, this doesn't make much difference, but I'm going to right click on it and shade smooth. It doesn't do anything apart from make it look nice anyway. So the Z scale, I want to increase it a little bit, not too much. Give it about there. So if I come into shading, click on our torus, click new, shift A, and search for emission. Click on this and drag this all the way into the materials output. So what we had before was a completely dark scene. Adding this emission gives us a bit of light, and if I up the strength, gives us a bit more visibility. However, as I said, this is EV, so if you want it really accurate, we go to cycles. Now you don't want it that bright, so let's drop it down to about 5. Go to our camera view, and a little tip here: when you're in camera view and you're in your viewport shading for display render, come to the sort of outer edge of the camera. This box here is the camera. Click Control and B. Hold left click and drag this box all the way to the other end so it covers your entire camera. What this will do is it will only render what your camera sees while you're in camera view. If you come out of it, it obviously renders everything. This will help with your render time quite a bit. So again, if we now come up to our overlays, turn them off, you can see what we've now got. So as you can see, we've got a nice reflection of the car. on the floor. If we select the floor, we can increase it a bit by decreasing the roughness. Again, anything like this, do a YouTube search. Look for tutorials on how to use Blender, how to make how to make things reflective. There are other options, different ways to get a better reflective result. Some which I have in other Blender projects, but I can't remember what they are, and I'm not going to go searching for them now. So what we can do from here, this is pretty much the ending of the beginner bit. So from here, if you come to our output, what you want to do is increase your viewport to unlimited, so you can decide when for it to stop. Not rendering. What's the word? Basically, sample count. So up here, you have your sample count. So if I hit 0, that's unlimited, and that will go on for forever until I hit render. Another thing, this is the quality that will come out depending on your setup. Might want to go for 200 or 300. Depending on what project I'm doing, I normally set it at 512. Again, that could be too high for what you can handle. Another little tip for decreasing your time. And when I say time of rendering, I mean the sample count. The more you have going on in your scene, the longer this will take. And I have a lot of scenes where this will go up by like 5 in a matter of, I don't know, a few minutes. Is your lights. Click your total, put that to about 6. Transparency, I normally set it 1 below the total, so here's 6, so there's 5. And transmissions, I set about 7. That will also help increase your time. And then your denoise, that's an option if you want it or not. That'll make it will take out this grain at the cost of quality, so it will look quite flat. So it depends if you want that or not. So what you would do, now that you're happy with this, you have this set to render. Another thing, I clicked it, but I didn't actually say anything. Device, if you have a good GPU, always set it to GPU. If you have it to CPU, your PC will make noises and won't be as quick. Yeah, so you pretty much just wait here until you have a high sample count. And then when you're good with it, you just hit F12 and let it render out your image, which will be this. So going on from that, I'm going to stop that now. Going on from that, a little advanced tip would be Windows. As you can see in as you can see here, it's not great looking. This is pretty much just the standard mesh with the standard diffuse on it, so it's not that great. So what we're going to do is select the car body, come over to UV editing, and up here, up the top, this is your faces, your selection that you're going to be making. So here you have the vertex, which is pretty much that, and then here single lines, and then here is a face, which is what we want to make it a bit quicker. So we can just select this entire window. So once you have a bit of selection, you can hold down Shift, the others, and once you have the entire window, we're going to come over to our materials, click on the plus, click New. On this drop down, we'll select glass. Now click Assign. So now we're going to drag it round. For dragging, hold down middle mouse button or use your options up here. Now we're going to do the same for the side window. So hold down Shift to make multiple selections. Again, once you have that, click on your glass material, click Assign, and we can come on to our next one. Now, because of the way of the angle of the car, we don't need to do we don't need to do the side or the back. If you do have multiple angles of the car, then you can do obviously do all of them. But for this tutorial, we're going to leave it as those three. So when it comes to shading, now that we're in shading, you click on the car, you can see we've only got this. This is our new material slot. You click the drop down here, you can go back to the body itself. If I disconnect that, you can now see we're controlling the body. So now I want to control the glass. What I'm going to do is set this to a slightly bluish tint. Drop the saturation of it about there. And then now we're going to drop the roughness. And you actually want to make this a bit darker. Take a bit of the blue off. Cool. So now we have actual glass on the windows. Again, for any more information on this, look up YouTube tutorials. There are lots of really good stuff out there for different material types. So you can get it pretty much to how you want it to look. So actually what we will do while we're here is I'll show you the difference between what this torus does and what the area light does. So let's scale up this light. And we want to hide torus. We want to up the brightness, let's say 50. Okay, say 250. 500. Wow, that really is dark. 1500. So we got our lamp or area light set to 6000 watts. If I hide the overlay, you can see the effect it has on the car compared to if we hide that. Oh no, that's the plane. Hide the area light and show our torus. You can see the difference that it makes. So again, lighting is completely your choice on what to do. Yeah, just search for ways or come up with ways to make it look as how you want it. So from here, what we can do is, let's say we did want another camera. Click on the camera, Control C, Control V. Click on our new camera. Now this is where you, how can I put this? You want to be careful. So even though we have our new camera selected, we have it highlighted here. This isn't the camera that we're looking through. The camera we're looking through is our original one. You can see it here highlighted. So you can see the difference between this one and this one. So now we're looking through our new camera. And that's important because if I was to change the view this way, by then doing Control-Alt-0, that would have changed our original camera and not our new one. which wouldn't matter anyway because you copied it, so it's the same position, but it is something to be aware of. So now that we have our new camera, again, what we've just done was the locking it into place or setting the position of it using the hotkeys. Again, we can use our sidebar here. Cool. So there's our new angle. Now, let's say you want to move your car or rotate your car or put it in a different position, different place, whatever. And if you were to do that, you would have to move each individual thing and then set it to the rotation, blah, blah, blah. Well, luckily, there is a quick way, and we're going to parent it the same way we parented these wheels. So we're going to click on each individual object, and the way I want to be able to select the car is by clicking on the body to then move everything. So the last thing you shift select, that will be the main thing that displays up here. So all of these, or most of these items will come under just the body. So wheel, tread, spin round, wheel, tread. I'm holding down shift as I select these as well. So here we want the engine, so I'm going to select the light. So hold down shift, select the light. And now we come onto the body. Control P. Object keep transformation. And there we go. So as you can see here, everything's gone. We've still got the body. If we click the drop down, this is where everything is. So now if I move the body and do whatever, everything moves with it. Oops. So now I can set it in a different position. I could add an object like a podium, raise it all up. It'll be much faster to set everything up. If you then want to, for some weird reason, rotate or move individual objects, you still can. And then that will still keep its position relative to the car when you move it, when you move the car body itself. So one other thing that you can do is add headlights. So here we'll use the default one that comes with Blender, and that's the point light. So I'm going to come down to the front facing view, which is this X here, and I'm going to align this this dot with the center of the light, or roughly the center of the light here. Now I'm going to come into the side view, and as you can see, this light is all the way at the back. So I'm going to bring this forward. Now bring it back. This point here is the origin of the light, and this outer circle is the radius of it. So if I peek round, I want to get this light just touching the bulb, sort of like that. So if I now come into our rendered view, it doesn't look like the light's doing much, so I'm going to come select the light, come down here to our panel and select the light properties, and now we're going to increase the absolute fuck out of this. So we set it to white. I want this a bit blue. Still not bright enough for me, so let's do 500. Oops. A little bit. And what I want to do is drop the radius as well. About there. Should be okay. Oh, let's make that a bit brighter. There we go. Just set a 2000. Now if I come to the front view, render view, there we go. With our light selected, Control C, Control V. Select our new light and move it to the center of this one. Going camera view, this is what you see here, and then if I select our other camera, this is what you see over here. Another thing to note is you can hide certain objects just by clicking the little eye. So let's say I want to hide the plane, which is our floor. I can do that. However, this will still show in your rendered image. If you come up to the filter and then click on this camera, you can see the camera icon is still on. This shows up in renders, as it says here, disable in renders. If you was to click that, you wouldn't see your plane or whatever object you selected in renders. So I think that's a good place to end it. That covers pretty much a single car. If you wanted to add more and still keep your collection tidy, you can put them in folders. So right click, new collection. Here is a little tip. So let's say I want this Fennec inside of collection 2. If I just drag Fennec, well, what the fuck has just happened? Just the body has gone into this collection, everything else has stayed the same. There's a few different ways you can do this. If you hide all other objects and then click and drag on your car, now you can move them into your new collection. You see, that's everything. Or if you have too much to hide, click the drop down next to your car, click the body, scroll down to your very last one, which is the engine. And now you can close and drag. Obviously we haven't parented the lights, so the lights are still here. Another thing to note is folders. Everything we added always ended up in this collection folder. Let's say I was to add a new mesh, let's say monkey. You see how monkeys ended up in collection 2. I don't want it in collection 2, I want it in the normal collection. You need to select this box for the folder. The same way you select your camera, your active camera. This is your active folder. So you can see here this box is highlighted, that box is highlighted. So if I was to now add a different or another mesh, say another torus, it adds it to your highlighted or selected collection. So again, now if you wanted to add like a Dominus, you can make a new collection. Let's say Fennec, Dominus, and you want to click your folder. So anything you add will, no, it's not Fennec, but you can see, for example, the wheels have ended up in the Dominus folder. Yeah, I'm happy with this. So I'm going to let this render, and I shall see you on the outro. So here is our final image. This is everything that we've done in the tutorial. I hope that was a good introduction for you guys. Hopefully you learnt something. as I said at the start, if there's anything you want to try to achieve in Blender, the best thing is just to YouTube or Google how to use the program. Don't put anything Rocket League related. The example I used was if you wanted to add boost, look up tutorials for fire. Look up tutorials how to make fire in Blender. That would be a good emulation for your boost, which you can then add. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If there's anything else you would like to know that you would like me to do a video on, let me know in the comments, and if I get time, I'll do a tutorial on it. Oh, one thing I did forget is if you want assets like a different car, a different set of wheels, and they aren't in the database, I do have a tutorial on how to rip assets from the game. That is in a completely different tutorial for something completely separate, but I will leave a timestamp link down in the comments. I believe that only covers textures. I don't think I went into too much detail on how to actually rip bodies, but that can all be explained in the Rocket League skins server if you join. But yes, thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care and peace out.